Alright, welcome back. This is my very first Harescramble. I've been writing for 179 days at the time of this. I kept count of it in a little app I have on my phone. So that's about 5.8 months from learning to ride the bike to getting training from friends and hitting the gym a whole lot. And I really just approached it as a trail rider.
10 seconds.
You can see the video here is about the race is about to start, and he'll lift the flag up, and yep, I don't go, right? I'm gonna look around, wait for everybody, be safe. I'm not trying to win anything. I just want to ride the trail. And that was the mentality that all my friends had really advocated for. Just come out, try it out. You're really green. I am really green. 6 months riding really just isn't enough to do well at a race, and get an experience and get a feel for it first. So approaching this whole thing as a trail rider first was really key to reducing my nervousness and getting hurt too. You go out there full blast, hard charging, trying to win a plastic trophy. It's probably not a great idea, especially if you're 6 months into this like I am. I'll go through some things that I learned throughout this, and I'll start with just the things that I packed. Make a list. You're going to forget something. You're definitely going to need a list. So I had a cooler that had food and extra drinks, Gatorade, water, Gatorade Zero and water, and then I think I had a couple sandwiches that I had made at the house. I brought extra gas for some reason. I just felt stupid, on both sides of that. I don't know, why am I going to need extra gas? But what if I do? And wouldn't that be really dumb if I didn't have that? Whatever. I threw my gas can in the truck. It isn't a big deal. Nothing to belabor. I brought all my tools, but not all my tools, but tools that I commonly use on the bike, my whole socket set, and a couple of extra, things that I do, basic maintenance on. I brought an extra spark plug. I brought my tear-offs, a chair. I brought a $100 bill for all the registration stuff and things that maybe you need on the road. These races are out in the country, so never know when you might need cash out there. So bring some extra cash with you. That's not an exhaustive list. It's what I brought. I didn't find that I like the chair. I never used the chair. Definitely didn't use that extra gas I brought. I definitely did eat all of that extra food that I brought, so that was good. The most stressful part of the race was actually registration. And that's probably first place. Second place would be, trying to get to the side and let people pass you. That's a big thing. I was very careful. You see, I just made a mistake actually talking about that exact thing you see in the video. I went to the guy's unexpected left side. He pulled over to the left, and I went more to his left, and that probably wasn't the right move there, but anyway, I got passed throughout this race, and a couple people brushed up against me as they did it, going very fast, and that was nerve-wracking. But back to registration. So I arrived to the race 2 hours before it starts. So the race started at 11:30, and I hit the ground at 9:30. I got to registration, and as an open D rider, that's the beginner class, and being brand new, they didn't let me pre-register. I had the transponder and everything. I was ready to go, but I had to wait in the very long registration line. So I'm waiting in line, getting kind of antsy, thinking about it, like, man, I really got to get back to the truck and get my gear on and get ready for this race and I don't know, meditate or something. I don't know, whatever it is that I got to do. I got to go do it now. And then I get to the registration folks, and it was the nicest, sweetest old lady, and she's slow, and she's very talkative, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful, I'm so grateful that you're such a nice person, and you're making me feel at ease, but it's actually doing the opposite right now. I really would just want to get out of here. I didn't tell her that, but that's what I was feeling in my bones the entire time. She was fawning over all of the racers and asking how their day is going and all that other stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, so I got done with the registration. I get back to the truck, put my gear on, and I did have a little bit of extra time. And it seemed like that 2 hours, that 2 hour mark, was pretty safe. So get there at 9:30 if the race starts at 11:30, and that was, pretty reasonable. I wouldn't want to be any later than I was. Now, if you can pre-register in your series, then that would be great. I did not have that option. I was talking about it before, getting out of people's way. It's hard sometimes. That was a lesson for me. I kind of knew that going in. I watched a bunch of Harescramble videos and said, well, that's something I'm going to have to think about. I'm going to be the slow guy out there, so, I'm going to have to adopt a certain attitude. And that attitude was, if I can safely do it without screwing anything of myself up, then I'll move. But I'm not going to jump out of the way and put myself or anybody else in danger to hurry up and get over to the side in these tight woods. Again, for a plastic trophy. This isn't for money. There's a lot of real competitive guys out there, and I respect that competition. I think that's great. But I'm not gonna put myself in a bad position to do that. And that was the mentality that I adopted. And it worked out for me. There were some times where I could feel a little bit of stress. Guys were behind me yelling, and they're not mad at you. They're just letting you know, hey, I'm behind you. Rev their engine, just be as loud as possible. They're usually, hopefully, not mad at you. They just want to let you know that they're there. So don't get stressed out over that. Pull to the side when you feel safe to do it, and it's a reasonably open area. Do what you can do. So I'll talk a little bit about how to train for the Harescramble. Really, the number one thing was the seat time and really finding the community. That was the most important part. Find the community of people around you that ride. You have to do that. There's no way that I would have attempted this after just 6 months of riding without having some friends to push me along the way and help me out. They not only increased my skill a whole lot, they just taught me a lot of things, and they push you into things you wouldn't normally do by yourself. You probably shouldn't be riding out in the woods by yourself unless you have a GPS, a satellite communicator or anything, or something like that. But anyway, the community is overwhelmingly supportive, and a lot of times I think that comes from hardship. I met a lot of guys over this past 6 months who were stuck in the woods. Bike's broken down, or they hurt something, or now they don't have water, or they need a spark plug wrench or something. You're going to have to rely on each other, and I think that's one of the things that brings the community close together. And also, it's a small community, so they welcome a lot of newcomers, and they're very, very warm, welcoming, friendly folks that I have found. Now, I'm sure there's some real jerks out there, and like in every community, but my overwhelming experience was that they were just great. I had a lot of mentors throughout this 6 months, and people like Ron Winkler and Garrett Stickles, Mike Zeman, Adam Gorski, Les Chafin. Adam has the channel Alabama Dirt Rider, and he's great. He's great to watch. He rides all the same areas that I do here. Doesn't race, but he does an excellent YouTube channel, so I'll put his stuff down in the description for you to check out if you're interested in more. Another really great thing you can do is work at a race. So I volunteered at one of our local races called the Hot Dog. It's the Buddy race out at Natra. That really gave me an opportunity to understand how races are run. So that was a really great decision. I got invited by one of my buddies. He needed help. It was Mike Z. He did the scoring out there. So working the registration and the scoring part of an actual race was like, oh, this is how it works. These are the mechanics of how it is. And so that was a good way to prepare for a Harescramble. Now lots of these places that do Harescrambles and stuff, they'll take volunteers, and you can sign up, you can email them, whatever you want to do. Find friends in that community that actually do this sort of thing. They need help. So don't be afraid to jump in there and help out there where needed. Like I said before, seat time was the biggest deal for me, and it is for everybody. Getting as much seat time as you can. For me, that was almost every weekend for about 2 to 3 hours, and really build up that stamina and the endurance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on this, the gym stuff. You're gonna have to be doing that. If you ride dirt bikes, you know how difficult it is, and it's an extreme sport for sure, and it'll really wind you. So that was something that I took a very measured approach to. So once I started getting a little more serious and found out, hey, I really love this stuff, I'm gonna get serious, and I'm gonna get in the gym some more. Now, I was already a fitness guy, so I came into it, in pretty decent shape. So here's what I've been doing. I've got a workout A, B, and C here, and you'll notice that C is just a stretching day. So I do A and B, Monday, Wednesday, and it's a lot. It's a lot of volume, or well, I guess I would call it a lot of volume. You power lifter, strength guys, probably not. Now this is a kind of a hybrid workout. It's a combination of cosmetic. I want to look good, but you'll notice there's a lot of compound lifts in there. Most everything is dumbbell. I've got a couple of barbell things like the row, but I really try to enhance all those stabilizer muscles and engage the core as much as I can. So there's a lot of core stuff happening in this workout. You'll notice also in workout A, I've got specific things like farmer's carries, pull-ups, anything. You can add some dead hangs. Anything you can do to increase your grip strength is really great. Obviously, so if you've ridden for a while, you'll know getting that arm pump. You'll want to do, to prevent that arm pump, you'll want to do some high rep kind of endurance, stamina focused grip strength stuff. And then I get that through farmer's carries and dead hangs and pull ups and wrist roll ups that you see there in workout B. Those are real great too. So yeah, we covered what's that. Lots of compound lifts, core stuff. Now there's a little bit of cardio in here. You can see I do the rowing machine for 20 to 30 minutes. On Monday I just do standard, I keep it in aerobic zone, zone 2 I believe it is, on the first day. And then on the Wednesday workout B, I actually do a HIIT interval. So I'll do 30 seconds real hard charging, and then 1 minute of zone 2, try to get that heart rate recovery improvement, get the efficiency out of that, because you drop your bike, you're winded, and now you're picking it back up and you're getting back on it, you're real winded. That will spike your heart rate up, and then it's going to need to come back down for the rest of the ride. And I did find I found this to be kind of overdoing it. I'm a real slow guy, and well, like my lap time was 45 minutes. Okay, and that's a 9.5 mile course. Not fast. The fastest lap time, and this is SECCA Blueberry Hill, the fastest lap time was like 23 minutes. So I am over 20 minutes slower than the fastest guys on the course. So when I say that, like, okay, this thing didn't smoke me, I was actually pretty good, take it with a grain of salt. I was, like I said, I approached this as a trail rider and took a fairly leisurely kind of approach to this, where I'm not going fast, I'm not trying to beat anybody, I'm just out here to learn and become a better rider and stay out of your way. And that was my goal. So I say that maybe I over prepared on the fitness side. I love fitness anyway, so that's just great. That's just my thing. I was not smoked by the Harescramble, and I heard that from everybody when I was preparing. Hey man, you got to get in the gym, you got to get in shape, you got to do this, got to do that. And I did find that was a little bit overblown for me personally. Now I'm like 146, 148 pounds and 11.5% body fat, and I stay in the gym. I designed this specific workout just for Harescramble racing, with a mix of good cosmetic stuff. I'm a little bit of a vain person, so some cosmetic stuff is in there too. On workout C, don't skip the stretching. That's important, and I'm sure you'll hear every fitness instructor tell you that. especially this, all the odd, awkward kind of movements you can make on a bike that are not normal for your human body to be making. Stretching is key. It also helps with recovery. You'll notice on Workout C, I have a sauna in there, you know, get 20 minutes in there, help your muscles recover. And of course, 90% of this really is diet. If you do take this fitness path, and you should, I can't place enough emphasis on, yeah, everybody's got to go to the gym. You got to go to the gym. That's important. But 90% of it is diet. Muscles are made in the kitchen and in the bed when you sleep. And I can't stress that enough, how critically important diet is to this. Not much good is going to happen by doing these kinds of workouts and eating trash. And then, of course, so you got workout A, B, and C, and then, you know, Saturday or Sunday, I would get some seat time. That's the best. I would never sacrifice seat time for a gym day. It's critically, it's way more important than the gym. If you can get some seat time, and, you know, you can do, what I have found is that all these workouts are great, and you can do that, but it's not going to improve your efficiency on the bike. And that was a big thing for me, is like, gosh, you know, I would do these single track trails down here in Alabama, and I'd still be way more winded than my friends, while full well knowing I was in better shape than them. It's because your bike efficiency is bad when you're new. You don't know how to ride. I don't know how to ride. I'm not good at it. And, you know, you take bumps and bruises a lot different than a seasoned rider does. And that was something, that's something you can't fix in the gym. It took more seat time, and it'll come with experience, I hope, for me. As far as the other training goes, Rich Larson, he has excellent drills. You know, if you get some cones out, look up his videos on static exercises, static bike balance, and stuff like that. Those were really excellent. I worked on those a tiny bit, not as much as I should. I'll link his video series. It's a whole excellent series of you know, drills that you can run to really improve your confidence on the bike, and they're great. The other thing I did to train that was really helpful, and I don't know that I would call this training, find a YouTuber that has your bike. For me, that was dirt biking with Donnie Helms. Now, I got to meet Donnie Helms at this particular race, and he doesn't know it, but he was a hero for me for a little while there, because he was showing me, he has the same exact bike, and he was showing me exactly how to work on it, you know, and very meticulous maintenance videos. He's just an excellent YouTuber all around, and you know, soft-spoken, humble guy. I got to meet him at the race, like I said, and it seemed like a good dude. So really appreciated that. Overall, like I said, I felt like I had over-prepared for it. I don't think you can do that. I think you can't really over-prepare for your first Harescramble. It can be a pretty, you know, scary experience unless you're like me and you just kind of dissociate. You know, I don't know that's healthy, but that's exactly what I did. I was on the starting line like, man, I really should be nervous, and I'm not. And you know, I think that's it's a weird that's a coping mechanism I have. But you know, overall, it wasn't fun, like I said, or it was a lot of fun. It wasn't scary. The scariest part of it, like I said, was at registration, when I was just waiting around trying to know that I would get back to the truck on time. That was the biggest deal for me. So I'll close out the video here. I'll close out the audio part of it, and I'll keep the video going if you want to watch the rest of it. That's completely up to you. But yeah, those are the things I learned at my first Harescramble, and I'll be looking forward to doing the next one. Next one is the SECCA one at Reynolds Run. So if any of you SECCA guys are watching, I hope to see you there. And if you see me out there on my YZ250FX, make sure you say, hey, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
We're in the jungle. It's all off camber. This makes me uncomfortable. on the lap.